welcome to another episode of Creating Magic. I'm Dani.
And I'm Paula.
And today we are skipping Assassin's Blade and going to Heir of Fire. Mostly because we didn't feel like we had a full... There weren't a lot of things to say. I feel like we will pull Assassin's Blade in as we read other books in the series. And none of them can say anything to that because they haven't read them yet, so.
Correct.
Well, I don't know. I think we can say something. Oh, sorry. I'm starting already. But there's stuff in here from Assassin's Blade.
There is, because now we can talk about it. And that's what I'm saying is, like, from this book forward, we'll start pulling in some of those. As you should all know by now, that is our dear friend Angel, our official correspondent of the Mossverse.
Hi.
And then Kelsie, I believe this is your first time on.
It is.
Which is crazy.
I know.
Like, we have mentioned you multiple times.
Yes.
You've been referenced. We've been friends forever. And this is the first time we've had you on. I feel like we failed you.
No, I'm very excited about it, though.
She's like, I'm very excited.
I am.
Kelsie, why don't you introduce yourself? Who you are, where we can find you. Maybe
your
a random
pronouns.
fact or two.
Yes.
I'm Kelsie. My pronouns are she, her. On Instagram, I'm at the Speckled Hippogriff. And I've been part of Pottergram, or this Instagram community, for the past 4 years now. And I think I've known you guys for the past, like, four years.
Pretty much,
We
yeah.
all met through the Pottergram, so that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Angel, why don't you introduce yourself pretty quickly?
Yeah. All right. My name's Angel. My Instagram handle is at Wizard of Main Street. And I also met everybody here through the Pottergram too. I think I also joined 4 years ago. It was whenever we did was it Back to Hogwarts or the New Year New Magic Challenge? It might have been the New Year New Magic Challenge. I'd have to go back to my first post, but it was definitely one that you guys were hosting.
Oh, that's so nice. Yay. That's coming back. Like, side note, September 1st, Back to Hogwarts Magic Challenge is happening. Awesome. I always get through these episodes, or even our mini-sodes, and then we end, and then I go, oh my gosh, we didn't mention it.
We should have mentioned it.
Yeah. Paula, do you have anything to say? To add? To comment?
Do I have anything to add? No, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to talk about this book. I have feelings, many feelings, which now I'm self-conscious about because apparently, there's like this side conversation going on with people who already read all the books, and that makes me a little bit self-conscious, but it's
honestly, okay. So the comment that was said in regards to your reel was just just you wait. The real side conversation is the fact that Mayuri, Madi, and I always talk about Angel's theories because he sends them to all of us. And we have a group chat from Lit Inc. planning that we then just talk about Angel's theories.
Perfect.
I haven't had a theory be right yet. I'm still upset.
You didn't trust Archer in the Crown of Midnight.
Well, this is true. I didn't trust him, but like when I think that something is something, it's not. It usually is not. Like even the back to ACOTAR. Well, Kelsie, you haven't read ACOTAR, right? Well, there was one where I was like, yes, I got it, but then it was like I was wrong, sort of, because there was like other stuff behind it. So it was a ruse. So, because I got excited. I was like, I am never right, but I was right.
Well, right here, right now, I will confirm one of Angel's latest theories, which states that because Riley from Inside Out 2 turns 13 and there's birthday cakes with 13 all over Dreamlight Valley, that it means that it is related to Throne of Glass.
Yes.
Come on,
the 13. Anything with 13.
Anything with 13 is in here.
This is my first Sarah J Maas series.
So what are you thinking? Mm-hmm. But what do you think about this book in relation to the other two and the novellas? 3. Yeah.
Oh, so like Heir of Fire versus the first 3.
More so, what are you thinking of the series so far?
I love this series. I like that it's a strong female character. I'm in the minority where I don't necessarily love a lot of spice in my books. And so I love that there's romance, but it's not like your main reason of like why you're reading the story. And there's multiple storylines going on, and it's not just about like two people being together. Like there's clearly fantasy elements and other elements and like political intrigue and just a lot of other elements that kind of go into the storyline. So I'm really enjoying that because unfortunately, a lot of not unfortunately, but unfortunately for me, a lot of fantasy sometimes has like a lot of spice in it. So, and that's like the main focus of the story, where I feel like this story doesn't have that as the main focus, which I really enjoy.
All right, I want to make a comment. So, like, I went into ACOTAR thinking that it was going to be a fairy smut fest, and it was not. So okay. I was like, oh my God, am I going to be reading this? Like, I'm going to have to be careful where I read this book. And that was not the case. I feel like the story is what leads this, and there is some spice like thrown in there, but it's not what's driving the story. So I'll say that. I'll just leave it like that.
Okay.
Because when I was presented with it, it was like not like from somebody, but you know, like when you run across stuff on Instagram and stuff, you're like, my God, what the hell are these people reading? And that was not the case. The last book is a little.
It's like 50% smut.
Yeah, but it's still a good book. The story's good. So. But anyway,
and there is, if you're really curious, the ACOTAR, I think there's like somebody who went ahead and made a version without the smut chapters.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to.
I have spoken to that. I think they should actually release a full set that is marketed toward as a young adult novel.
Yeah. Talk to Sarah. Somebody call her.
I mean, you'll make more money. It means it's accessible to a lot more. Like, I don't see the problem here of just because, yeah, the spice is in there, but it doesn't necessarily like.
It's not driving the story.
Lines if you
it doesn't.
It.
I have a question.
There's even guides to where you could like skip. Like if you skip this portion of this chapter, you're not going to like.
There's
miss
someone
anything.
on Instagram that actually posts the chapters to skip. To read it. What were you going to say, Angel?
I was going to say I have a question for Kelsie and Paula. Kelsie, can you remember in the first book on Fable when we first voted like Team Dorian or Team Kale, who you voted for first, and now having read this third book, who you would vote for now?
Okay, so and I was like this in Hunger Games, but I'm always Team Selena. Like, if I had a choice, I picked Team Selena. Like, and that's how I was in Hunger Games when it was like Peeta versus Gale. But for that, I think I had Kale picked. Now, because I do the audiobooks, he's Kale in the audiobooks. So if you hear me say Kale, it's because that's the audiobooks. But
Angel called him Kale.
Chalol.
Chalol.
So if I say a name weird, it's because that's what the narrator in the audiobook called them. So
I feel like that's pretty accurate. If you go by what the audiobook is saying, I think you have like a very good chance of it being correct.
Right. I think they do have to like contact Sarah.
I think they usually provide like a pronunciation key.
Yeah. But now I would probably still say Team Selena. I don't think that Kale or Dorian is going to be who she ends up with. And I don't think Rowan either, but that's another conversation we can have. But
what about Paula?
I said Team Kale. I am very much a blue collar girly. So the royalty thing doesn't do anything for me. So I didn't hate him this time. I didn't feel like Kale was like horrible. I do think that he does need to, like they told him, you have to make a choice. But I don't think he's a bad person. So I think I would still side with Kale. Do I feel horrible about the things that have happened to Dorian? Absolutely. But I think I'm pretty much still Team Kale. I'm definitely not Team Rowan.
I think for me, one of the things that I've felt since book one is I feel like because Kale has like bordered between like being strong for the king, then being strong for like basically for Dorian, like he doesn't ever really pick Selena as like his person per se. Like I feel like he doesn't ever pick her and he sides with other and this is going to sound like sexist, but I feel like he sides more with men than he does with her as like a because technically she's going to become queen, right? So like his big concern is like, is she really in it to be like, you know, like is she going to be a bad person or a bad ruler and come back and wreak vengeance or whatever? But I feel like Kale doesn't ever pick that side. So I feel like at some point he's going to I have this bad feeling since book one, like he's going to like do something bad to Selena, but that's always kind of been in the back of my brain. Even before they got together, I was like, oh no, I feel like he's not going to be on her side, or like you're going to fall in love with him and then he's going to end up hurting her. And then Dorian, I feel like sees himself in her a little bit. And I feel like as you read through this book and you get like deeper into it, you realize like basically had the king not gotten rid of magic, they would have like kind of grown up in the same like Selena, Aelin, Alentia, whatever you want to call her today, would have grown up kind of like the same because she would have been queen of her kingdom. And like clearly they met in the book. In this book, you see that as a memory.
They all met.
Yeah, they all met. So clearly you see that. And so like you wonder, did the reason why she liked Dorian in the beginning was because like she saw herself in him? Because that's basically who she would have become essentially, is like Dorian, like to take over her throne and be all of that. So I think they're a better match if I had to pick between the two.
Do you think Kale has still not chosen a side, even though at the end of this book he's like he essentially runs away, throws his sword in the river, his sword that belongs to like I guess a symbol of his allegiance to the king. Do you think he still hasn't chosen a side?
No, I think he definitely has chosen like Dorian's side, but I don't think he's necessarily chosen to like
A political side.
Yeah, like a political side, like to be with Aelin or Selena or
Selena.
whatever.
You can just call her Selena for
Selena, okay. To be on her side, like if she were to become queen. You know, I think he's still, to me, Dorian's still part of that throne, like that kingdom. So to me, he's still on that same side, even though it's a different ruler, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And for me, like I had also voted Team Kale originally. But it's also this through every single like these first couple books, he just hasn't picked like her. And I grew to love Dorian more because even when he found out, he's like, I still already knew, right? And like this information doesn't change the fact that I was still like on her side, right? So I like Dorian more. But I still can't, and I still feel like Kale's gonna mess up. I don't know. I didn't really like him at all at the beginning of this book. And then I tolerated him at the end. But I kept feeling like he's gonna do something to betray her or something. He keeps messing up. I'm also getting that vibe.
Did we purposely create a poll that did not have all the options? Yes. Yes, we did. And Nicolette and I enjoyed the conversation behind it.
You see, they're having secret conversations.
See, they're having secret. Well, even if Rowan were on that poll, I can guarantee you, us three would vote no.
No, yeah. And also, I think Dorian says it throughout this book. He's like, basically, like, you can't pick pieces of her that you want to love about her. You have to love all of her or none of it, which I feel like is very telling of kind of the whole trajectory of like his relationship with her. That he's okay with her, but he's not okay with her when she's an assassin. And then he's not okay with her when she's a queen, but he's okay with her other times.
What about our new character friends?
Which ones?
Well, this is interesting. I'll point out one thing that's interesting.
So many.
I will
know.
let you bring up the ones that interest you. We don't have to go through all of them.
Okay,
I was
just
like,
one thing
Me
I wanted to
personally,
mention.
Manon has entered the picture.
Oh yes, Sabrina likes her too.
I I don't feel, maybe in the next book I'll get like some
We need
type
more
of
Manon.
yeah. I
first
right
book,
now I've kind of
Manon
felt
yeah.
like her POVs to me were not interesting.
Just wait.
I loved like her first, like the first POV where she's like killing people. I was like, okay, she's killing people for real.
So
I was like,
She is the
oh.
assassin.
I
That's
was
what I was
like,
gonna ask.
oh.
So I had written a note because I rewatched your stories again, Paula, and I was like, do we think Manon is a better assassin than Selena?
She's actually doing it. I
I mean, she's not killing for other people, but she's killing for sport, essentially. But
yeah. When I read that, I was like, oh my God. I grabbed my own neck because I was like, oh.
You clutched your pearls.
Yeah, I was like, oh. And I did have some people sent me like fan art, but like screenshots of what she looks like, because I couldn't like picture her, because like the way that she's described seems like very beautiful. But then I'm thinking like this thing with iron teeth, like I just couldn't. So I said, you can send me. They would ask me like, hey, is it okay? I was like, you can send me a screenshot. Do not forward me
Yeah, like crop out any spoilers.
Yeah, no, don't like, well, and I didn't want like somebody to send me a post, because then automatically it just, the spies, they know what I'm watching, and then they'll be everywhere. But I wasn't really like interested in her story. Like, I guess, yeah, that's what I assumed, but I kind of felt like, do I really need to know all this right now? Maybe, I don't know. I loved the whole like her and Abraxos thing. I love Abraxos. Abraxos is toothless. Like there's no like he's toothless. So I was like, oh, but the grandmother is crazy. Also the them being in the mess hall that's like a prison yard, that for me was like, my God, these people can't even be in the same room with each other. Why you have them all together? This doesn't even make sense.
Fell off the week.
Yeah.
I also loved the same thing happened to you, Paula, when I was watching your stories, but like you go through the book and at the end I was like, oh, there's war games. I totally forgot that there were war games going on in this book after those last
what the hell?
But and I don't want to spoil anything for people that haven't read Fourth Wing, but it gave the witches with the wyverns or wyverns or however you pronounce it, gave very much Fourth Wing vibes to me, like similar vibes in those two.
I haven't read Fourth Wing, so
okay. Yeah.
So correction. Fourth Wing gives Throne of Glass vibes.
That's fair.
Dani's like, excuse me.
Yes.
Throne of Glass.
Excuse me.
Yes, was first. Yes, ran first. Yes.
I also think I think I had spoken to Sabrina about this too. Like Manon, especially at the end, they kind of when she kind of warms up to Abraxas, that it's gonna be, she's like evil, but I think she's gonna turn good. She's gonna end up coming in clutch at the end sometime. Like I don't think she's gonna be a villain in this series. She doesn't give that kind of vibe. Especially at the end when she was gonna kill the, how do you say the witches, the CHOR, the
Kraken?
Cochrane?
Cochrane, yeah.
Kraken. Those witches, the CH witches, and she's like, oh, no, you were taught to be like soulless, right? Like Manon has this identity about herself. And I don't know, it's like Manon, Dorian, and Kale all have like crappy parents, right? They all have crappy parents. I think I was mentioning this to Paula. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think she's going to end up coming in. She's going to be important as an ally, not a villain.
I'm really excited to see how Ansel from Assassin Blade kind of goes into their storyline, because that's very clear throughout this book that like they are going to meet back up at some point. And I'm sure Selena will be a part of that combination as well. But that was really compelling too to see in there.
And how she pays that debt.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about I don't know if this is like I think Paula, did you mention that you thought that Sorsha was the healer from the Assassin's Blade?
It
Healer?
wasn't
Was
me,
that
it was Kelsie.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Okay. That too.
And I thought she might have been writing to her to
Right, like the person that she was like
writing to
sharing
was
information
Bryn.
with.
Yeah, was Bryn in the beginning, because her description of her is almost identical to Bryn's description. So I didn't know if they were the same person. And then as I read, I'm like, I'm guessing I'm wrong in that theory. But and I don't know if we'll see Bryn again, but
Before we go down the Rowan rabbit hole, I wanted to point out like Emrys, the cook
Emrys,
in the
yeah.
kitchen. Yeah. And this is not to
Storyteller, excuse
yeah,
me. Respect.
storyteller, cook,
Respect. He's not a
and
cook, he's the storyteller.
yeah, storyteller and cook and awesome person. But I wanted to point out something, and not to like spoil anything, but in Akatar, the whole mating bond thing is like where Paula and I first learned about the mating bond. And so I was really interested in the fact that they were both like same sex fae.
Yes.
And there's theories, Kelsie, about Akatar. And so I thought it gave kind of like some credibility to kind of fan theories out there about potential mates and bonds in the Akatar series. But I just wanted to put it out there that those seem more plausible now, given that we have this. But it also brings up the question of like going into Rowan's thing, like, can you have a mate if your other mate has already expired? I don't know. Can you have another one? Can you have more than one mate?
Oh. I don't
that's
know.
what we live forever. Like Rowan.
I don't know. Well, we can talk about Rowan now, but I mean, I guess if we want to talk about Rowan, he's on the cover, I guess.
Before we talk about Rowan,
She has questions.
I don't have questions. I am going to play the audio of Angel discussing Rowan in the moment. So here we go.
If Rowan is Selena's mate, I am going to riot. I will not finish the series. Why would she ship them? This is ridiculous. What is the story going to be? That she arrived to Wendelin and then she met this guy and that he was upset and he treated her like crap because he was upset that he had already lost his mate and then found a new mate? No, this is ridiculous. They cannot be mated. Brina's over here saying that Selena treated him like crap too. Well, yeah, duh. Yeah, she treats like everyone like crap. Exactly. That's not an excuse. If Maas ships Rowan and Selena, I will be pissed. I will throw away the series. I will not finish it. That is the worst idea ever. Sabrina is also over here planting it in my head that the fact that they can read each other's minds, or those little hints of that they can, communicate telepathically, is things only mates can do in Akatar. And Sabrina's convinced that they're mates, and I am ready to.
Did you throw the book away?
Well, we don't have confirmation they're mates or not, but I might. But Paula said I shouldn't, even if they are mates.
No, you've committed. You are correspondent.
Yeah,
you are now
you have to finish regardless.
But I don't know. There was a point. So Rowan and Selena train, right? And then throughout the whole series, I was picking up the whole, like, suddenly she's noticing his features, like, oh, he's got abs, or, oh, wow, his skin, or, so I'm like, why are you making him seem desirable, like from Selena's POV? And I don't know. It wasn't initially, but then it was turning into that. So I felt like she was shipping them. And I really hope it doesn't happen. I don't think.
Well, at one point I was sharing the same, like, I was like, oh, what the hell? Like, now she needs to calm down. Girl doesn't know how to be by herself.
For real.
And Kelsie responded like, oh, well, I think it's like like friendly. And I was thinking to myself, when I'm friendly with somebody, I'm not like, damn, look at the abs. You know what I mean? Like,
That's fair.
I was like, I don't know, but I kind of had that same, like, please do not make these people like love each other like in that way, you know? Like, I even had a hard time with, even after the whole, you know, when he brings her back to his room and he falls asleep like holding her hand.
Yeah.
I was like, when the F did I catch feelings? Like, where did this happen? And I feel like that is where SJM is like a freaking genius. Because the same, you know, you get like you're like hating this person this whole time, and then all of a sudden you're like crying. Like, why am I crying? I hate you. How did you do that? But yeah, I do not condone physical abuse. I do not. I just could not get over it. And then it wasn't even only like it happened once. Because if you're like, okay, he punched her once, maybe he slipped,
okay.
you know, like you're like, okay, he lost control. But the second time that I think he like kicked her while she was on the ground or something, like, I was like, no, I can't. And then all I kept thinking about again is how I kept seeing like, you know, those, not necessarily like a reel, because I've gotten pretty good at like skipping those, but you know, like those little stories that have like the, you know, pick one, and it would be like blah 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 or Rowan, and people would circle Rowan, and I was like, what the who? People would be like, oh, I love Rowan, and I was like, what is wrong with you? Who hurt you? That's what I want to know.
Devil's advocate. Say you were in a situation where you needed to be prepared to fight a war and someone was issued to train you. Would you want them to go easy on you?
I don't know
But
that
you
I
don't
want them to punch me in my face.
Yeah, you don't need to punch somebody in the face. Look. Well, no, I can't. I was going to say it, but I can't because Kelsey's here. But there are ways to, you know, be tough with somebody without physically abusing them. He punched her in the face. Like, I can't get over that.
Although, too, I can't remember the instance of the face punching, but wasn't it she was also being a brat? Like, she was talking about,
She
like,
was being a brat.
I don't care
like
what happens to the Fae, whatever, you know, F
like
this.
I tell the kids here, somebody could call you an asshole. That doesn't mean you hit them. You fight words
your
with
kids
words.
are not being trained for war. They may act like they are.
They act like they are, but you cannot turn something verbal. Yes, she's being a brat or whatever into a physical altercation. That is not. I'm not training people for war, but I'm pretty sure that is not how the military does things. Yes, they'll make you like do push-ups or pull-ups or whatever, but nobody's punching you in the face, meaning like, you gotta be ready. No, absolutely not. I'm sorry. I can't.
I do think it's interesting also to play devil's advocate that Maeve gave him like no warning or like heads up like what Selena had been through prior to coming there. Like she clearly knew like that she had been in Endovier and like gone through all of that, like because he makes comments about whipping her and that like triggers her. He makes comments about her being like a failure, like Nehemia had said, and that triggers her. I like how SGM kind of uses that to kind of show like, because the book I feel like primarily focuses on grief and loss, and like that's like the main vibe that I got from this entire story. Through Dorian's story, through Selena's story, even Rowan's story, you see like who he's become because he lost his mate. So I do think it's interesting that she kind of spun this way of Rowan using all these trigger words, which really pissed Selena off to do terrible things, and then he like did terrible things back to her. But I think that it's interesting that that's how it gets kind of like woven through the storyline. And then towards the end, he realizes what's happened to her and like what he said and kind of like that's like his redeeming quality, right? When he realizes like, man, I've really just triggered this girl throughout the whole thing. And then I also find it compelling as a side note, like as they go through and they become that, I think he's realizing that they're, I might say it wrong, but Karanam or Karanad. And so I don't know if he becomes more attached to her because she's like, you know, they've just been together for so long and they've been through a lot of things and he's realizing what kind of person she is, or if he has something internally that like makes him like have that connection with her because they realize that they're Karanad to each other.
And I found the line too, to add on, like to play the devil's advocate. It was the line, I don't know what chapter this is. But anyway, she says, Faye, she tells Rowan, Faye, like you make me understand the King of Otterland's actions a bit more, I think. So, and based on like now what we know about the king and all his actions in this book alone, like, okay, maybe she did deserve a little, you know.
No. You can play devil's advocate all you want. I just do not. You can say something equally as hurtful.
But I think that, you know, but she was in a broken place at this beginning of this, or throughout most of this book, right? Like, I think that's what she wanted. And this is kind of connecting a little bit to ACOTAR, but I'm not going to go there. Like I want to be. He said, like, why should I give you what you want? It's like the next thing in here, right? Like, why should I beat you up or things like that? So, I don't know. I think she was broken.
No, she is.
Well, she is broken.
She absolutely is.
But
you don't fix somebody by punching them.
Yeah, but I mean, she's picking fights in the beginning of the book, like going to the bars and brawling. And so, like, I don't see it very much because she's probably doing that with men. Like, I don't see that difference of her going in there and picking a fight and then her going to Rowan. I guess at this point, especially when he first punched her in the face, I would say like further down when he had that physical abuse, I would say like it's like the first time he's like really like he went with her to Dornell or Mistborn or whatever.
Miss
Word. And so I think
Mistborn's a different book series.
Yes, sorry. that's brand new. But I think that like honestly they're like strangers to each other at that point. I know that we like grow to that relationship changes over time, but I don't really see it any different than her walking into a bar and saying something to a random guy and him punching her in the face. You know what I mean? Like, and starting a fight that way, in my opinion.
I don't know.
I don't condone violence either.
Yes.
But she does murder.
Sounds like you do.
But she kind of murders. It's the premise of the story. She kind of murders people throughout like the whole story.
I mean, in summary, though, we all agree, I think, except for Dani, she can't say that Rowan, Selena is not I hope it doesn't go there. I hope they stay platonic. And yeah, because there was a line, I think also right after I had sent that message to Dani, where they were fighting the Vogue, yeah, in the little fortress, and they had put the barrier up, and then his team came to help, to assist, and they're like, oh, you know, don't go out there, she's dead. And he's like, oh no, I know she's not dead. Like, I know. And through all this training, we'd become bonded. And I sent a message to Dan. I was like, oh my God, here's the confirmation. You know, I'm over it. But then later on, it's like that we learned that they're just Karen M. And that was like, oh,
yeah.
I was like, okay, never mind. That's okay.
I had to look it up. I went and I looked it up because I was like, what does this entail? Because I was also like, this better not be it. But it is what it is. I didn't write the book. Again, I'm not writing books over here. So it is what it is. I just hope it's not.
I want her to have a male relationship without it being a romantic relationship. Like, I think that that's really important for her to have in the storyline. I do like that they have like a friendship partnership where he like protects her and she protects him. And that he equally pushes her like Nehemia did. I feel like he's a good substitute, if you can say that, for like Nehemia, where Nehemia would push her to the point of being uncomfortable and say things to her that would make her kind of go and do the things that she needed to do, right? Like, she sacrificed herself so that Selena could become who she needed to become. And I feel like Rowan is going to be that same kind of person. Like, he matches her banter, he matches her level of crazy, I feel like. And I think that if that turns romantic, I think it will ruin that part of the storyline, in my opinion.
What about other kind of love interests that have kind of been like kind of hinted at, like Adian? Is that how you say his name? Adian? I say it Adian.
I hope they're not a love interest. He's their cousin.
Right, me too.
Yeah,
he
but
was
it's
like,
so distant. They made a point to mention like how
well, no,
distant
Rowan.
of cousins they are, right?
No, Rowan and
Rowan.
her are distant related.
Oh,
But-
okay.
Her and Adian are very closely related.
Right, but he was saying like, oh, but if she asked me to, I will, or like, I don't know, like he's
Yeah.
but I think he's also just trying to serve her. So I hope that it doesn't happen. But I've seen, like, I think I saw in the Fable, like some people saying like, oh, well, what if they're going to be shipped? I hope not. But it also kind of sucked that at the end he ended up being captured. But I don't know. I can't remember actually. Did she find out that he was captured at the end? No, right?
No, I don't think she knows anything.
She don't know. She doesn't remember, or she doesn't know
even know
about his whereabouts.
I don't even think she knows he's alive or that he exists.
I think she does, because
I think she knows he's alive because he
Okay.
was
in the
things like
memories.
so.
Oh, yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
she has not seen him physically being in the castle, she would have heard his name and recognized who he was.
Adian is another one that at the beginning I was like, this MFer.
I love
And I was like, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's wearing like this fake black ring. I was like, oh,
Sneaky, sneaky boy.
sneaky.
I
He
do
knows what
think
he's doing.
the reason why Adian acts like that to Selena, I also wrote a comment in our Fable group or whatever, like it was kind of gross that like the way that he talks about her in the book sounds very possessive and kind of romantic almost. And I was like, I don't like the way that sounds because they're cousins. It sounds weird. But then I tried thinking of it like outside of that, like he's really supposed to be like her protector. You kind of see that later.
Like, well, you figure because he's older than her that he was raised with the knowledge that he was supposed to be this to her.
Yes. And
Like,
that he's kind of like oath bound to her.
yes.
And that oath bound's never really left. And he's kind of realizing like, oh, she's alive still. Like, I need to become that person. But I do think the way that it was written originally, it was kind of like, I don't like the way that sounds.
Any other characters we should discuss?
What about Mauve? Is that how you say her aunt's name?
Maeve.
Maeve, Mauve.
Maeve.
I don't like
fine.
How are they related?
She's like
She's
her
her aunt,
or
right?
something,
But is she like related to the mother?
Distantly related to the mother, right?
Honestly, I was going to look it up, but again, that ends up.
Yeah, Dani, can you
like,
give us a
it can-
tree without spoilers?
So, like, can you
I don't think
remove
this
stuff?
is a spoiler because there's that scene, I don't remember which book it's from, where Selena mentions her genealogical line into the Fae is
Oh, it was in
this
the
great
book
in Crown of
before
Midnight.
this one, Crown of Midnight.
Crown of
Yeah.
Midnight.
and that person is the sister of Maeve.
It's Elena, right? Isn't she or Elena's mom? The queen's mom, right? Because there's King Brannon, who's like the human line, and then his wife, Elena, she's the Fae line, and it's one of these that is related to Maeve from the Fae line, right?
It's the Fae line, but it's not Elena. I think it's someone further down the line. I think it's like a great, only like one or two greats.
One or two.
We need a
Give or
tree.
take.
We need a
Like-
tree without
Yeah.
spoilers.
But you can't look it up.
Yeah, I know. I can't look it up.
I
'cause-
You know, I ruined the last Bridgerton book for myself. I did it to myself because I looked up something and I found Gregory's by accident. And so I know who he ends up with.
Okay.
I looked up something too and got a spoiler of something from
Oh no.
from this book, but I don't know. I don't know how big of a spoiler it is. I don't think it's that big of a
And it's one
spoiler.
of those things you have to keep to yourself.
Yeah, and I'm not
Right,
gonna
it's kind of
say
big
that.
enough.
silence.
I will. I'll
There's
suffer in
three
silence.
sisters, right? Three sisters.
Yep, three sisters.
Maeve, Maud,
Mom,
and then another one, and they all represent something different. And
Mhm.
Maeve is related to but it's her sister. It's one of those sisters that Selena is related to. But then in the book, I know that they go down and they talk about the mark on her head, right? Being related to Brannon.
Right.
It's
And
like
that
a
was a mark,
bastard
but
mark,
that's
right?
yes, exactly.
That it's a non-magical, or he didn't have a family, or I'm not sure exactly. That was kind of confusing to me.
It was
but
like on him because he was
no one
like no one claimed him. So then everybody from his line has this mark.
Yeah.
Is he
Anybody that
magical?
stems from there. That what?
Is he magical, Brannon?
No.
I don't think Brannon is.
No.
But,
No, he was human.
He's
yeah.
human. Okay. He just had a weird mark on his head.
It was like something of a like nameless one or something. It was like the
Yeah.
unnamed. There was something behind it.
Okay.
Looking for this. Okay, so here we go. I finally found one that like went through the line. So we have Mab, Maeve, and Mora.
More Mab.
Rowan is a descendant of the Mora line.
And they can all
Mab,
transform into birds, right?
I don't have. I'm looking at a family tree.
Oh.
I don't have all the details.
Oh.
I have
Oh, okay.
names. And then Mab is the line that Aiden and Aileen come from.
Mab. This is the middle sister, right?
Where does Elena come from? The queen that married Brannon.
Exactly.
Danny's looking.
Dun dun dun.
Elena didn't marry Brannon. Brannon was Elena's dad.
Oh,
It's Elena
so
and
Brannon-
Gavin.
Gavin
okay,
is
so Brannon is magical then, or no?
No,
Because he's the one that
No.
split up the keys. Isn't he the one that split up the keys?
No, I think
but
that
magic was in the land at that time, and as we know, word keys can be used by anyone.
That's true. Okay.
I need to make my own family tree because I don't
Yes.
like how these are laid out.
Yeah,
Good,
please.
perfect. And make it spoiler free for us.
Yes.
It'll just like
When you
slowly unveil as we add more.
Like, have you ever
Take
used
those things off.
have you ever used the org chart like program like at work where you can like we need that and then you could like slowly reveal?
Okay, so it's Brannon and Mala. Then it's Elena and Gavin. Why is that connected?
She can't tell us.
Yeah, don't tell us. Maybe we
Well,
saw.
no, because
It's
then they
okay.
have Dorian under there, and I was like,
Well, Dorian is technically related to Selena.
he is a Havilard,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
But they have him under like Elena's line too, which makes.
But she is.
Elena's the queen. It's Elena, and I keep telling you, I don't know if the king is actually Dorian's dad, because he even said, I knew you had it, boy. Like I knew you had the magic or whatever. Like, and he didn't have it. So I still don't think
Does he? That's
Who?
my question. Does the king really not have magic? Because he's able to control magic and he controls them through the rings. So does he really have magic and just you don't know that yet?
Or is it the weird key? I don't know. You're right. I don't know.
The weird key.
Yeah, is it the weird key? I don't know. But
I feel like I was thinking about that today as I was like reading through everything again. I was like, does Dorian, because we don't know if Dorian's really his son. That's been like questioned a couple times throughout this book. And that more so that his little brother seems more like his son because he would be like a ruthless ruler. So, but does Dorian's magic come from his mother's line then, or his father's line? And will his father like come back if it's not actually the king? Will he like come back in another story, or will you notice him like later on? That was something I was thinking about today, but I mean that's kind of off topic. But
well, no, the other topic is what are some theories we have, moving forward in the next couple of books, like I think we had caught on. If I remember the Crown of Midnight pod, we talked about what is the king working on in the mountains and stuff. So he is breeding wyverns, right? I think we had pointed that out. And we talked about the soldiers disappearing. Like, did you catch on when they first introduced Manon into the mountains that she tried to kill one of the soldiers and the blood tasted foul?
Look at Danny's doing a little dance.
Yeah. the blood tasted foul. And we talked about like, okay, so these soldiers going off to the mountains disappearing are kind of like that creature in the clock tower in Crown of Midnight. Like they're dead soldiers, somehow dead on the inside. And
Dorian's twin.
Dorian's twin.
That was my
Dorian's twin.
that was my theory for the Crown of Midnight. I was convinced that thing was Dorian's twin.
But you know,
That
Because
one
he was
was
in the
wild.
clock tower, and the clock tower showed up at the same time as Dorian.
That-
so I was
that
like,
was
oh,
like
they're hiding
Your
him down there.
wildest theory. I was like, oh my god.
but you know what's interesting? What I have a question about is whether or not the black obsidian rings, the collars, do those have to be put on individuals with magic? Because obviously, like, because Duke Parrington has one, and I think Kelsie, it was you or someone else brought it up in the fable. Does that mean Duke Parrington has magic? Because we know Dorian's cousin has a ring. Lady Caltaine came from a magic line. Kane from the White Fang Mountains had like a history of magical like bloodline there. So like all these people that have the obsidian rings have some sort of connection to a magical line, right? And so even Selena feeling the worm that she described in her brain and stuff like that. So, but Aiden was like resistant to it or recognized it for what it was, which was interesting because that is it just their line that's resistant, or do you have to catch on early? Like, obviously, it can be broken, which gives me hope for Dorian because Aiden didn't fall victim to it.
But can it be broken?
He had a ring on versus a collar.
Yeah.
My opinion, he just took the ring
And
off.
the collar thing, the only way to release it was by chopping their heads off, right? Am I wrong? Isn't that what happened?
That's what
So
happened to both.
So I'm like, we don't want to cut off Dorian's head. Well, maybe we'll want to, but I don't know.
So in this book, Aiden has revealed himself, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
he did.
Okay, so but the ring he had was a fake, so it wasn't like he was
Right.
resistant.
Yeah. Yeah,
He didn't have to
originally-
resist the ring because it was a fake ring.
But how did he? My question was still like
Because
there must have been
maybe
some
he
point-
knows what the answer is that you all are wondering.
Oh, maybe that's true.
So he knew what
I
to
think-
look out for.
Now I'm like, do you know, Dani?
I feel like though it was
Do I know?
book that because Selena was and Aiden is part Fae, right? That Selena knew that like the obsidian and all that other stuff like made her feel a certain way when she was around it because of her part, like because she was Fae. Like I thought that she could feel that more because she was Fae. And maybe because Aiden is part Fae, like he knew more like there's something off about this, kind of like how Manon knows like by the taste of the blood and things like that. Because I feel like they have like more magical lineage or whatever, more magic in their system that they kind of know that these are like it feels wrong to them. So they know to kind of like chuck it. And in my opinion, that's what I got from the vibe from reading it.
Yeah,
Humans versus magical beings.
and I think he had also mentioned to Kale, like when Kale was revealing everything that he knew. Eventually, he's like, "Okay, so you do know more than I thought you did, right?" And especially about the rings and everything. So, what about the lost child in Aylin's memory? Then when she sucked down underneath and reliving her trauma as a child, the caretaker she had that sacrificed her life said, "Tell my daughter I love her." Who's this daughter? And I thought it was Manon, but Sabrina was like, I don't think so. Maybe Manon's just Manon. I was like,
No,
I don't
Manon's
know.
too old to be that girl.
Manon's too. Oh, that's right. Because she
She's
is
like hundreds of
Yeah,
years
that's right. That's
old.
100.
So
Thank you.
she's
Okay,
too
so
old
you're
to
right. She's
be
not
that.
Manon.
I'm like trying to listen to you guys, but I'm just staring at Dani.
But you know what? You know who I'm talking about, right, Paula?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's her
I know who
mom,
you're talking about.
her mom's handmaiden's daughter.
Right.
Right.
And then she sacrificed herself. I can't remember her name right now off the top of my head, but she sacrifices herself to let Selena or Aylin
Escape. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think she's going to come up for sure. It's interesting too, like as I was reading and you start hearing all these parts about her history, and then these characters start getting introduced in the book, you realize like this would have been her royal court, right? So Adian Ren,
Yes.
Murtaugh, like all these people would have been in her court, which is cool that they're like rebels in the book. Like they didn't turn bad. So it's kind of, I'm guessing, and they kind of hint throughout the book that they're like coming together to kind of reform her court for when she's ready to like take on that to become queen, essentially. Because she doesn't know Ren's alive at all either, right?
Well, I don't think wasn't Ren with Archer in them? Like Ren and Archer and Murtaugh, they were all a thing, right? Did I miss?
Oh, I think you're right.
I
Ren
think
is
like
the guy
they
that
were
like
part of Archer.
tries to fight her, but I don't think she recognizes him as Ren.
She just recognized him as like Archer's tribe of people I have to get through.
Like another assassin in that group or whatever,
Yeah.
or bad guy or whatever. So I don't think she recognizes him as Ren, because if you think about it, it was 10 years beforehand that she's around all of them. But as you read through the book, you realize that like that's going to be like her court essentially, which is kind of cool.
What consequences do you think Manon's betrayal of the witches, or not the witches, of the spider silk thing will have? Will
Oh,
do you remember? Like she took the spider silk without
silk.
paying a price.
And we discussed the spider silk
Wait, what?
because we've heard of spider silk before.
Yes, we heard of spider silk.
Yes, in Assassin's Blade.
Speaking of which, I'm gonna put this out there because we didn't have an Assassin's Blade podcast. I don't think Sam is dead. I refuse to believe it. There was a little bit of an inclination that he was dead in here because of the whole memories, but I refuse to believe Sam is dead. His features were all bloodied up and bludgeoned, and we know Selena was making corpses, but that's it. That's all I have to say on the matter. Until I see him walk through a portal. Sorry.
If I had to pick a person, Sam would be my person for her.
Exactly. Thank you.
I just like I don't feel like we know it. Like, yeah, we read Assassin's Blade. I'm not the biggest Sam fan.
You
I
can
don't know,
have
like after reading Assassin's Blade, I'm like, okay.
Dani, what happened to this?
You know, I think he's telling you to shut up. That's rude.
It's not a spoiler. Like I like
No, you're talking about what we read before.
whichever way it goes about, like when I think of like when I read Assassin's Blade, like I wasn't intrigued by the Sam storyline.
I think I told Paula this. I think the Sam storyline was fast. Like I was like, when did he or maybe it was Chanel, like when did she fall in love with him? But I think somebody told me like, oh well, it's like the same thing with Kale. Like they were at odds, but then she realized she liked him. Like but I was like, I don't know, it just seemed really rushed to me
I
too.
think the
But
difference is we had like an entire book about Kale. And we heard about Sam, and I think reading it, and I prefer to read it third. I think where we read it is the appropriate place. But by that point, this character of Sam is so built up in your head that then you read the novella and you're like, that's Sam?
I don't know. I liked him in the novella. I liked him in Assassin's Blade. And I think that they work well with each other and they like balance each other out, where everyone else is like aiming for power, aiming for certain things, and Sam's just kind of trying to get by.
It's just paying the bills.
Paying the
Just gotta
bills.
pay the bills, girl.
Paying his debts off.
What about the thing that has the word key in it, the little medallion thing?
I was going to bring that up about
talking about Aylin's like heirloom necklace.
Yes.
Yeah.
That she thinks that Arabin has it.
Oh, he definitely has it.
But do you think he knows what it is?
I don't think he knows what it is, but I'm convinced he has it.
No, because if he knew what it was, I feel like he would be using that as leverage with the king.
But I mean, I don't know. He is benefiting from the slave trade the same way the king is. Maybe I don't know, because he was benefiting from the slave trade, but now that the king wiped out all the slaves, like, is that going to hurt Arabin's pocket in Queen of Shadows? It would make sense, but I don't know.
That shit fucking hurt my soul. I'm sorry for the cuss word. That was rough. When I went like this, and everybody in the house was like, I was like. They're like, are you okay? I was like, I'm fine. I'm okay. That was rough.
It was rough.
I was I cannot believe Because I feel like almost everything she did was with the thought that she was going to free these people. And now they're all gone. I'm a crier, but I'm telling you what, these crying books, what the hell is happening?
This book was emotional damage is my like initial thought process of the entire book. Like,
I'm very worried.
Oh, just wait.
Sabrina's green tabs. Sabrina's green tabs are emotional damage, and they're all at the end.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Rough. I mean, I feel like the whole book was that, like going through, like I said before, like going through her grief, going through her loss of Nehemia, and then finding about her parents and memories in through there and realizing how she lost her family. It's so heartbreaking to like, and to see how like she's so self-deprecating and like hates herself almost essentially for kind of surviving, almost like survivor's guilt, and then becoming this different person, and then her going back thinking like, is everyone going to hate me when they figure out who I am? Like, and becoming Selena essentially when Arobynn finds her. And just to think like what kind of person Arobynn found on this, I guess, the side of the water or wherever he found her. It's so sad. And I think that SJM like writes it so well that you kind of feel like this emptiness to the point where she feels like she can't empty anymore. And then that's when like little Aelin reaches her hand out and she finally gets up and fights, like becomes Aelin again, which I think is really refreshing to like kind of let Selena go in the end of the book and become Aelin. I think it was a really smart way to write the entire book to the ending.
Tell Sabrina to refresh her green tab. She's going to need more.
Great.
Can't wait. No, I saw a reel today where they're showing like the books, and it's like that audio that's like slay your enemies. It's like the first 3 books. They're like slay your enemies, and it's like this one, and then the next books. I was like, yay!
Well, that's funny because that's what I thought about. Like, I felt going back to like the original question. These first 3 books, yeah, a lot happens in the 3rd book, but I felt like, man, this is all still set. To me, it still felt like setup. Like now, when I got to the end of this book, I was like, okay, now I feel like the story's actually going to start. Like what I've been wanting to read is finally going to happen. Like and this thing, I don't really know what I want to happen, but I know it wasn't this. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, this is taking forever. And this felt like the whole training thing felt slow to me too. But at the end, I was like, okay, when it was picking up, I was like, I feel like the actual war, now that she's claiming to be Aelin is just going to happen. So I'm excited for what happens next.
You're excited for more emotional damage?
Well, the twist, right? Like yeah, I know. Sorsha getting her head chopped off was not. I teared up. I
was like, no.
Dorian. I've also felt like Dorian had so much loss in this book too. Like you just, and like I said, they almost mirror each other, Dorian and Selena, like throughout, like I said, I think they're similar people in different
fire and ice.
Yeah. So, which is interesting between the two of them. And I have this thought in my head, though I don't know how it's going to go now that Dorian has a collar on his neck, that like they would rule the kingdom together in like peace. And maybe that's what the king sees like as an issue, is that if Dorian came to power, that him and Selena would be, they would work together to have a fair kingdom across with magic even involved. But and that they balance each other really well. But I was trying to think of where I was going with this, but Dorian's loss, that's what I was thinking of. Throughout like the whole series, all the books up to this point, I just feel so terrible for him. Like he finds out about Chaol and Adian knowing all the things, and they're like
about Selena, yeah.
About Selena, and he finds out like third person, and I just feel like it's so heartbreaking for him throughout this series, and he really like clings to Sorsha, and then she ends up getting, I'm like, poor guy, he can't. And then he gets a collar strapped on his neck, and Aiden gets pulled away, and it was like all for naught. I just feel like it's terrible. And I'm interested to see too, with Chaol, as he leaves, like the fact that he takes Fleetfoot, like just warms my heart. And then
Paula hates Fleetfoot's name.
why?
We had a
So
long
dumb.
discussion about how she thinks it's a stupid name.
It's a stupid name. I just can't get over it.
But what about Baba Yellowlegs?
Oh, that shit is like Teletubby. I every time I read it, I'm like, how am I supposed to take this serious? Like as a
And
deadly
she's from the
witch?
clan of Yellowlegs.
Baba Yellowlegs.
I do think that Kale had some redeeming qualities throughout this book that I feel like made him want you to make him love him more. It's like him telling Murtaugh to tell Eelway like to hold on, that they're coming to prepare to fight, that like basically they were going to redeem Nehemiah's loss. And then like him saving Fleetfoot and, you know, basically saying like Dorian's his king and that he would, you know, fight for him. I think makes you feel like he's a good person, but I just have this bad feeling, like I said before, that he's going to do something terrible.
So as we get ready to close out, what do you guys want to see more of? What are you excited for, nervous about? Comments, questions, concerns?
I am nervous about in this next book, Selena being, even though I don't like him, being without Rowan. Like, it didn't click until I read it that he couldn't go because there's no magic there, so he wouldn't be able to, you know, really help her. So I was like, damn, you went through all this, he punched you in the face, and now you're going to be by yourself. Unbelievable. But I don't know. I want to know what's going to happen with Dorian. Because like that, I'm very worried about that collar thing. It's not just a ring, you know? It's a whole collar. So I don't know. And I'm very scared about the emotional damage. Terrified.
I want to see an Arabin Selena showdown, like the whole Queen of Shadows thing, like because he's the king of assassins made me feel like, okay, we might see them throw down in this next book. And maybe finally Arabin, you know, maybe she ends up killing him. So I'm excited for that. I want to know where Kale went. I'm not sure because Kale said like he told Mort, I'm going to be here, but they didn't really explicitly say where. Like, and so I was trying to think, where would he go? Like, would he go to maybe the Desert Assassin clan? I just was really trying to think where he might go, and I couldn't really think of where he might go. Maybe Terrasan and the you know, maybe there. Or now that the mines are empty and the slaves are all dead, maybe he might go there. I don't know. I was trying to think where he might go and where he might be hiding out, and waiting for her. But yeah, I think Dorian, I don't know how Dorian's going to fight back, but I trust that he might be able to fight back on the obsidian. I hope is what I hope.
I'm nervous about Dorian and Adian because that didn't end well. I'm nervous about how Selena's gonna feel back in Rifthold after being in Mistward, and like how her role is gonna change, like now that she's become Aelin, like how that's gonna feel being back in Rifthold and like people finding out that she's not just the king's assassin anymore, she's actually the Queen of Terrasan. And like, is she actually going to be able to get people to be behind her to fight the king? Or is everyone going to be like, where were you like these past 10 years? And she's got to kind of like prove herself. I agree. I hope that Arabin and her have I know that they'll probably have, I mean, she's going back to get the amulet, most likely. Like, that's what it sounds like when she's having the discussions. So, I mean, I know that there's going to be some interaction. I'm just curious as to like what kind of interaction. Is she going to find out about Sam? Because we didn't talk about that in, you know, from Assassin's Blade, but like you find out at the end of Assassin's Blade that he basically had Sam killed by Farron. And so like, does she find out about all of that? And like that he even betrayed her even more. So it'll be interesting with that. And then if Kale's really gonna disappoint us all, Or if he's gonna stay a okay guy in between. Like, I feel like at this point he has to pick some kind of side.
We still have a lot of books left. He better pick a side by then.
We're like halfway through after this book, or we are already halfway through.
We're about halfway because we have the next book and then the tandem read and then the final. So there's 4 books.
But I was going to
You
say
can never
also,
repeat it.
I just remembered one more thing is learning if Aelin has an animal form or not. I don't think so because she's demi-fae, but if she does or doesn't, that would be interesting because Mauve doesn't have a form. It said like explicitly she didn't have a form. Like the other 2 did, right? Like the other one had a bird or swan or something, and I can't remember the other one anymore. Maybe it was a wolf or something. A cat. I can't remember.
A cat. It was a cat. Remember, she called him his kitty cat friend.
Oh, his kitty cat friend. Okay, so it was a bird and cat, and then this one that's formless, right? So, we'll see. Her develop her fae powers more.
I know that like you can become wolves and other creatures because like there's wolves like aren't 2 of them wolves
I
that
think
show
you
up?
guys already know this answer. You just haven't pieced it together yet.
Mhm.
So all the
A
fae have a
dragon?
shifting form.
Yeah, that they all can. But is she full? She's not full fae though. She's half, right?
Yeah, she's half fae.
But she can shift.
She can shift.
She
Okay,
could, but she shifted to like when she went through the portal, she just got pointed ears and stuff. Like unless she can shift into like a cat because she did get fangs, but all the fae have like
That's a fae trait.
canines. All the fae have canines, right?
She has a human form.
she has a fae form, and then she'll have an animal form. We just don't know what the animal form is.
No, she's saying
Everyone
the fae
shifts
form.
once.
So her
Human
fae
form, fae form.
So her human is her animal. Is her animal,
Is like her, well, because she's also not full blooded,
right?
but
So
they
she-
all have one shifting form, and hers just happens to be
human
and fae.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's shift.
Interesting.
Okay. So can all demi-fae shift?
To
I don't
human.
think all of them can. I think it also like depends on your lines.
Okay.
We didn't talk about Luca. I just loved Luca so much.
Yeah.
When he
The
was
merman?
trapped in that. Huh?
The merman from the Pixar movie.
Yes, exactly. I
He does give
loved
those
him.
vibes.
He was
Yeah.
so cute.
And we didn't talk about Maeve's like little kind of grip on Rowan's kind of team. Like and
The
this is I don't know, this
blood
is me
oath
thinking,
thing?
yeah, the blood oath thing. And this was me thinking like in the same way Arabin might have had a grip on Selena, like that Maeve kind of might have concocted the whole plan to have his mate killed so that he would be loyal to her. Like not that she was behind it, but maybe prevented him from being there in some form or fashion, right? Like so that he would be bound to her. I don't know, like, but that's just because I didn't trust Maeve from the beginning. So, and rightfully, it turned out we were right. We were right not to trust her. So,
I'm gonna stop having my screen on for these because I can tell Paula is like studying me for reactions.
I'm studying your poker face. I'm
I
like,
can like tell, and I'm like, if
sometimes
I turn
she's
it
like
off
dancing.
now, they're gonna know
Mhm.
something's up.
No, you're good. Don't worry.
So you're
You've
just gonna
heard my
talk to a blank
theories.
screen.
I think you're good.
Morgan's twin.
You could probably
Alright.
tell me and I'd probably forget the next day.
Any last things? All right, why don't we have you guys share your socials where we can find you? Anything exciting coming up in your summer?
all right, I'll go first. So again, my name's Angel. I forgot to say my pronouns at the beginning. They're he, him. And Wizard of Main Street is my Instagram. And exciting for summer. I'm going to DC for work, but when I come back, I'll be going to San Diego Comic-Con. So, and I think it's going to be the first time where Sabrina and I actually take off work to attend to attend Comic-Con for like the full day.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm Kelsie. My pronouns are she, her, and you can find me on Instagram on the Speckled Hippogriff. And Dani and I, in August, are going to California to go to a trip for D23 Expo and then also Disneyland and Universal. And
And
then
the studio tour.
and the studio tour and other fun LA outings. And then I just actually bought my tickets last week for New York City Comic Con in October.
Oh, nice.
I'm excited about. And then I have a book con coming up in November, which I'm excited about.
Damn, you're full.
Yeah. We have something going on every month until the end of the year, starting in August. So, well, really until February. So, yeah.
I'm tired.
I know.
I'm Paula. My pronouns are she, her. I just started a new Instagram account.
How many?
Because I was
How many are
bored.
we at?
It's Dani's idea. Dani was like, "Oh, that should be your account name."
It was a great
like,
name.
we were talking about how, like, yes, I am loving reading, but I have zero interest in like purchasing physical books. That I am
We were
strictly
with
Kindle.
someone that was physical books only.
Yeah. So I was like, oh no, I have like zero interest in that. The idea of like having to dust them or like just having them is I just it's not I'm not interested in it. I just want to read it. I'm not rarely gonna go and read something again. That's another thing. So I'm like strictly Kindle. I have no and Dani was like, that should be your username.
Great
I was like,
username.
oh, but I'm not ready to like switch my unconceivable. Like I don't know. I'm not comfortable with it. So I was like, just open up another
you
account.
need both currently because strictly Kindle is like your Bookstagram.
Yeah.
And you don't really want to put all your Bridgerton stuff on your Bookstagram.
Why?
Because you're watching this show. Because it's all about your Kindle, but you're watching the show. You're reading it. Now, when you're reading the books, yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of your stuff has been show specific.
This is true. But yeah, so I have that. You can obviously find me on Creating Magic Podcast, Unconceivable. I'm strictly Kindle on both Instagram and TikTok. Because why not go and do all of it? I think that's it. I'm missing something. I know I am.
Paulita's World on Fable.
Oh, what we're doing. Oh yeah, Paulita's World on Fable. In July, which is now, I can't see what you're showing me.
I was going to show you exactly what you're going to talk about.
Oh, so in July, we have Lit Inc. July 12th.
We will actually, the day this releases, we will be on our way to Chattanooga.
So we're going to do that. I'm very excited about that. It'll be my first time. I am going to get a tattoo. I have one already, but I'm going to get another one. 15 years, more than 17 years later. What else? Oh, in July. Oh, go ahead.
Partnering with our friend Amy for a Harry Potter reread on Fable that kicked off July 1st. So if you want to reread Harry Potter, come join us there. But also, if you haven't joined us for Throne of Glass, find us on Fable.
Fable. I was talking about what we were doing this summer.
That is something we're doing this summer.
I did get confirmed today that I can do whatever I want when I arrive in LA on Tuesday. So that one day, I'm going for a work trip. So that one day, I am going to go to the studio tour. That's like the only thing I have time for. So
in August, Paula and I will bring you a mini-sode on the studio tour because we're not seeing it together. So we will record after. And if you are someone that only listens to us, go check out our mini-sodes on the gram and TikTok. Right now, we're having almost a weekly one.
Almost, yeah. We're very chatty lately.
We've been doing a lot. We've been having fun doing things. So make sure to check those out. What else are we doing? Back to Hogwarts Magic Challenge. September 1st.
We'll also be at the parks on September 1st.
Yes. The Harry Potter exhibition in Boston opens on September 12th.
And that is pending, but maybe.
Well, I mean, it opens with us there
but
or
we might
not.
be there. Yeah.
If we will be there is pending, not if it opens or not. So, and then as always, you can find the podcast at Creating Magic Podcast on all the things. You can find me at Mandrakes and Mischief. And until next time,
keep creating.
Now, if you two don't mind, I'm going to bed, for I spelled.